Hey everybody, it's Silver Seeker, and in today's video, we are going to be telling you everything that you need to know about stacking 90% constitutional silver. We're talking dimes, quarters, and half dollars, 1964 and before. Now, this video is not about should you stack silver. That's totally different. This is just about if you were to stack silver, here are some of the reasons that you should consider 90% constitutional silver. With that being said, let's get over to it. But before we do, if you guys are new to the channel and you want to learn more about silver stacking, gold stacking, and more, do me a favor, make sure you go down below and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my future video notifications. Okay, so let's go ahead and start out by asking and answering the question, what is 90% silver? Well, I think that most of you know, but just in case you don't, 1964 and before, all of our dimes, quarters, and half dollars, actually along with silver dollars, but we're not talking about those in this video, but all of our dimes, quarters, and half dollars contained 90% silver. Now, this was actually true throughout the US's history up until the Coinage Act of 1965. Now, if you aren't sure what the Coinage Act of 65 is, basically, there was a coin shortage in 1959 that caused the US to expand production and meet the demand of the coin shortage. This, along with silver's increased industrial demand, led to pressure being put on the price of silver, which at the time the government had capped at $1.29 per ounce. Now, that is what they sold it for. Of course, on the open market, things could be different. But the government knew that if silver actually passed $1.38 per ounce, that the 90% silver coinage, the dimes, quarters, and half dollars, would actually be worth more in metal value than their face value. In other words, a quarter would actually be worth more than a quarter because of the amount of silver that's inside the quarter. Now this, along with the fact that in 1964, they started putting Kennedy on the half dollar, and he was 90% as well, and people used to actually collect and hoard those because when Kennedy was assassinated, I mean, it was very recent back then. He was assassinated 11/22/63, so it was very recent history. So a lot of people would actually hoard the 1964 half dollars to commemorate, the assassination of JFK. So if you combine all of that together, it basically led to the Coinage Act of 1965, which is where the government debased the value of the half dollars by lowering the amount of silver from 90% to 40%, and additionally, they removed all of the silver from our dimes and quarters. That is what led to the fact that we have the pancake half dollars and quarters today. So even though that happened, coinage was actually still in circulation for quite some time, and it really didn't start coming out of circulation until a few years later when the government stopped putting pressure on the price of silver. They left the silver market, stopped selling silver directly, and at that point, it went wild. Silver jumped over $2 an ounce. People started pulling this stuff out of circulation very, very quick. So it didn't take very long for people to start hoarding this stuff, which is exactly what they predicted would have happened had they stopped keeping the price low. So if we want to go ahead and look at the hard numbers of, trading 90% silver in today's market, let's go ahead and take a look at what we have. So 90% coinage in uncirculated form, that is the stuff that comes brand new off the mint, 1964 and earlier, contained 0.7234 ounces of silver per dollar face value. So that would be every 10 dimes, every 4 quarters, every 2 half dollars, or however you mix it up. But generally today, when we are trading 90% silver, we actually use the math of 0.715 ounces per dollar, and that's just to account for the fact that there is some wear and tear on these coins over the years. So they have lost a little bit of their silver if they have a little bit of circulation to them. With that number in mind, you can know that it takes roughly $1.40 of face value of 90% coinage to equal 1 ounce of silver. So let's say if you looked at the market today and silver was trading for $22 an ounce, you would know that $1.40 of face value, so in other words, let's just say 2 half dollars and 4 dimes, would have $22 worth of silver. Now, 90% silver, even though we do know that math, is generally not bought by weight, but is instead bought by the face value. So when you go into a coin shop and you're going to buy your 90% silver, they're not going to put it on a scale and weigh it. They're actually going to calculate the face value and multiply it by whatever that number is going for that day. So we did some math down below so you can see what we're talking about. So let's use our example that silver is sitting at $22 per ounce. So we would take 22 and then multiply it by 0.715. And what that's going to give us is a melt value. Now, melt value is how much silver value is in $1 of face value coin. So if you take 22 times 0.715, that means $1 of face value coins is $15.73 worth of silver. Now let's say we just have 1 quarter. All we can do at that point is just take 1573, which we know is melt, and multiply it by 0.25, and that would give you the value of a quarter, which would be 393 using those numbers. So again, it's generally bought and sold for by the face value, even though it does have a weight, and generally you can put it on a scale and weigh it, unless it's heavily circulated to where it's almost completely worn flat. Generally, it is just bought and sold by the face value. So going into why you might consider stacking 90% silver, the first reason that you might actually consider stacking 90% silver is that it is easily identifiable. So most US citizens can identify, dimes, quarters, and half dollars. And if it's, well known that dimes, quarters, and half dollars have 0.715 ounces of silver per dollar, you can easily grab a calculator and do the math, assuming that you're somewhat decent at math and you know the formulas. But generally, it's pretty easy to just grab a calculator and figure out how much silver value you have just by multiplying spot price times 0.715 and then looking at what you have in face value, multiply it by that, and that's what you have. Additionally, with 90% silver, there is a finite amount. It is no longer being made. They stopped making it all the way back in 65 or 66, where, believe it or not, for a couple of years, they were producing coinage that was dated 1964 and was still 90% silver, but it was actually produced a couple of years later. But generally, since 1966 or 67, when they finally stopped producing it completely, there's just no more of it being made. So what's out there is out there. There will no longer be any more 1964 quarters, or there will no longer be any Walking Liberty half dollars, at least the original ones from back then, ever produced. So what's out there is all that's left, and that is it. There will never be any more. And then additionally, it is a very affordable way to stack fractional silver. So I don't know if you know this or not, but whenever you're buying 1 ounces, the premiums are generally pretty standard. But when you go to fractional, when you go to like half ounce, quarter ounce, 10th ounce, or even 1 gram bars, the premiums tend to go up very, very quickly on those smaller fractional amounts of silver. This generally is not the case with 90% silver. So it's a very good and affordable way to stack your fractional silver without actually buying the premium fractional silver. Now, lastly, there may be some reasons not to stack at 90% silver. So there's a couple of things you should at least consider. And what that is, for example, it is very, very heavy. So 90% silver means that it's 10% something else, in this case, copper. And so when you stack a large amount of 90% silver, it actually gets quite heavy. It actually takes also 10% more space to store than just 99 fine silver bullion. Additionally, it's actually not as easy to stack because if you do it in tubes, the tubes take up space. If you put it in bags, they're not uniformly stacked, and so they take up more space. It's a lot easier as far as weight and storage space is concerned to stack 1 ounce rounds or 10 ounce bars or 100 ounce bars than it is small fractional silver like 90%. Additionally, math, like I kind of hinted at earlier, is not exactly everybody's strong suit. So although it may seem overly simple for people that are used to it, that do the math all the time, or that are just good at math in general, if you're not good at math and it's not something you're thinking about all the time, it may be a little bit confusing. So, if you're dealing with somebody who you are bartering with for whatever with 90% silver and neither of you are very good at math, it might get very confusing. Whereas again, you can just look at the spot price of a 1 ounce silver round and know that you have, say, for example, $22 because silver's trading for $22 and 1 ounce is $22. Much easier to do the math on that than it is on 90%. And then last but not least, and I have a story to go with this one, it's still spendable. Now that may seem like I'm being silly here, but it's true. You can actually go out and still use this as currency, and it's not a good idea. You don't want to go out and spend a quarter that's worth almost $4 for 25 cents on accident. And it gets even greater than that when you consider family that may not be sure about what it's worth. So let me tell you a story. You guys may or may not like this one. This is a story I heard from someone back in 2011, 2012, when silver rose almost to $50 an ounce. He was storing his 90% silver that he would buy, every week from a coin shop into a coffee can. Well, his coffee can got pretty full. It got over halfway full. But when silver hit $45, $50 an ounce, he went to grab his coffee can so he could cash out his silver, and it was mostly gone. He had no idea where it went. Well, when his wife got home from work that day, he asked her about it, and she told him this. And it's really scary. She said that she didn't have money for lunch, so she noticed that he had a lot of change in the top of the closet, and so she was taking $5 or $6 and spending that at McDonald's for her breakfast or lunch. So if you don't know the math, at $90 an ounce, 90% silver trades for around $35 per dollar. So that means that she was basically spending $210 for a McDonald's value meal, and she did this repeatedly. So if you are going to stack 90% silver and you're not going to secure it in a location that nobody but yourself can access, you want to make sure that everybody that is able to access the location in which you store your 90% silver in knows exactly what it is and what it's worth and why it's worth what it's worth. So guys, there are some of the reasons to stack 90% silver, both good and bad. We'll just kind of do a recap here. So like I said, 90% is generally bought and sold per dollar face value. It is not bought and sold by weight. And although 90% silver contains 0.7234 ounces of silver per dollar face value, because of where over the years average circulated US coinage is bought and sold at spot times 0.715, this is commonly referred to as melt. And because of 90% silver being 10% copper, you do technically need 10% more storage space, at least, to store your 90% silver over just storing, 1 ounce fine rounds or silver bars, etc. And then due to being heavily traded and stacked, 90% silver is widely recognizable, and due to it being fractional by nature, is perfect for bartering. So that is kind of a quick recap, guys, and I hope I didn't miss anything. If I did, feel free to leave a comment down below. I hope that you guys learned a little bit in this video, and if you did, do me a favor, make sure you hit that like button because that really helps me out. Leave a comment down below and let me know what you thought. And other than that, thank you so much for watching and have a fantastic rest of your day. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I did leave a video above you can check out if you haven't seen it yet. I also want to give a huge shout out and a huge thank you to my awesome channel supporters scrolling right there on the right hand of the screen. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.